All right, all praise, glory, and honor is most certainly due to the Most High. I don't say peace to you in the name of His Son. I always count it a blessing each and every single time that I can come before you. I never do. I count it as a light thing to do so. With that being said, I want to continue with the series on the law and Bible basics. So I've dealt with, did the Mashiach and the Messiah do it with the law? No. Did Paul some kind of way nullify the law? No. And as a matter of fact, not only did that not occur, there's something else we should realize. We should realize that there was always a standard. There was always a law. There was always commandments prior to the giving of the lively oracles on to Moshe and the Israelites on Mount Sinai. That took place at that particular time, but there has always been a standard. And if there had not been a standard of morality, this is prior to it officially being given again to the children of Israel. If there had not been a standard of morality, there would have been really no justification for the flood that took place prior to the children of Israel. So it is important that we understand this, and then we understand that there has always been a law. Then we can further understand how it has not been done away with. Remember, because people would like to argue, many Christians today want to contend that they are under the new covenant. But if you actually read what it says in Hebrews 8 or in Jeremiah 31 pertaining to the new covenant, it states that he's going to make it with the same people, with the children of Israel. And not only that, he's putting the law in your heart. So where's this notion coming from that the law is done away with? Again, that is the argument of Satan, that his ministers are perpetuating throughout this earth and have been for many years. So now, let's pick it up in Psalms, the 19th division. Psalms 19. Because in Psalms 19, we read what the creation tells us. And when you understand what the creation tells you, you understand the absurdity in thinking that the law is done away with. So let's go. Because you read the Bible begins in the Bereshith. In the beginning, God or Elohim created the heaven and the earth. So now that creation, the existence of the creation, points us to the Creator, and that's what the psalmist David is saying here. This is Psalms 19 and beginning of verse 1. It says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun." So the heavens are making a declaration. They are speaking unto us loudly. And the message is that God exists, okay? Elohim exists. He created all things, and he is the evidence of him is through his creation. It'd be like if you see, for example, this here. If I see this, there's some conclusions that I can make. What could I make? What conclusion? The conclusion I can make is somewhere there's a bookmaker. There's a publisher, right? Well, and you look at the pages. This order didn't just take place by happenstance. That's not how things work. See, the Bible is telling us about the one, specifically who it is, and we know who it is. As he says, "I tell them from the beginning and from ancient times things that are not yet done, saying my counsel shall stand and I will do all my pleasure." We know specifically who this one is based on pretty much prophecy. But you don't actually need a book to tell you that the Creator exists. All you have to do is look at the creation. And this is what the psalmist David, because this is actually, we're reading the wisdom writings that we're reading. This is actually what some may call a philosophical statement. Okay. So now what is this? This is a philosophical position, is that you understand that there is a creator, or there's a God, as he is commonly referred to, because there is the creation. And this is what David is saying here. And again, this declaration is loud and can be understood in spite of your tongue, meaning doesn't matter what language you speak, you can hear it in your language. It doesn't matter. Even if you cannot speak, and if you are mute, you can see. And even if you cannot see, you can hear. What can you hear? The birds chirping. You know that you didn't make this. You know that you didn't make yourself. It is like Adam when it says, "And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed it into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul." So he brought this soul, or this nephesh, as it is stated in Hebrew. This one, he gave him life and he brought him into his consciousness. So now as a cognizant being, as one philosopher said, I think, therefore I am. Everything else can be doubted except that. So now when he was there, what did the Lord do? The Lord gave him mitzvah, or he gave him commandment. Of all the trees of the garden thou mayest freely eat in this creation. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. So now that was not talking about a literal tree. That was talking about communing with a being. That being was none other than Satan, that old serpent called the devil. He was in the Garden of Eden, as another prophet tells us. And so eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is communing with him. And what does he want you to do? Has God said thou shalt not eat of every tree of the garden? Eve said, no, we may eat of the trees of the garden, but of the tree in the midst of the garden, thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. What did he say? Thou shalt not surely die. For God doth know that in the day that thou eatest thereof, that thou shalt be as gods, knowing good and evil. So he is, as the Mashiach told us, he is the father of lies. And so what did they do? They broke the what? Mitzvah, or commandment. What is that telling us? There has always been a standard of morality. And this is why the breaking of the commandment is why man was banished from the paradise, banished from the Garden of Eden. This is why work that we all know too well is a curse was placed upon humanity. And this is why since Adam, we have been dying. How do we know it was in that day? Because even though Adam lived 930 years, a day to the Lord is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as one day. Psalms 90 tells us this, and the Apostle Peter verifies this as well. He reiterates that point. Adam didn't make it out of that day. And then you continue to read, he cut man's lifespan down. So now we look at the news. I saw some post just yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, and it stated oldest living woman, I want to say she's in Europe, 117 years old. We think that's a long time. But no, had not man sinned or transgressed, he would have done as Enoch did, went from being man to being Elohim, well, what he created him to be. He would not have seen death. Had he, instead of partaking of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, had he simply communed with the Lord, he would have went from being man to being, as he said, ye are God's children of the Most High God. But ye shall die like men and fall like one of the princes is the consequence for disobedience. So now Psalms 19, he talks about the heavens and how they're speaking to us. And then he says, it is a tabernacle for the sun. In verse 5, it says, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit is to the ends of it. And there is nothing here from the heat thereof. You may be in a place where it is very cold, but at a certain point, the heat from the sun, the rays of the sun shall reach that place in which you reside. See, this is a message for all of us that goes beyond Swahili, goes beyond English, goes beyond French, goes beyond Russian. It goes beyond the languages in which we speak. The understanding is clear. There is a creator. And if there is, see this, I'm going to get to the heart of the matter as to why people want to deny the existence of a creator. People want to acknowledge the existence of the creator because, as it says in one place, the spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. It is our flesh that wants to deny the creator, because if we actually acknowledge the existence of God, we automatically, by default, acknowledge that there is a being, there is someone that we have to bring our bodies into subjection to. There is someone that we must submit unto. There is someone that requires of us to bring our bodies into subjection to slay the carnality that we have, to walk uprightly, and our flesh doesn't want to do that. This is why Paul talked about in the book of Romans about the law in his members warring against the law of his mind. That's the heart of atheism and agnosticism, because the one that says you can't know, no, you can know. That's what the agnostic says. The agnostic says that we cannot know if there is a creator. Clearly, the creation speaks to this. The question is who he is, and you can know that, and he will manifest himself unto you. As it is written in Revelation, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man will hear my voice and open the door, I will come in and sup with him, and he with me. Your natural progression is, and you don't have to be that old, you don't have to be that wise. Once you understand that there is a God, you simply need to do the next logical step is ask the question, what do you require of me? This is submission, but not to Allah, but the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So now he goes on in telling you that creation speaks unto a creator. And then the next logical progression is this. He says in verse 7, the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. He says, the statutes of the Lord are right, rejoice in the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired are they than gold, yea, than much fine gold, sweeter also than honey and the honeycomb. Moreover, by them is thy servant warned, and in keeping of them there is great reward. Who can understand his errors? Cleanse thou me from secret faults. Keep back thy servant also from presumptuous sins. Let them not have dominion over me. Then shall I be upright, and I shall be innocent from the great transgression. See, it is not by coincidence that David goes from speaking about the existence of the creator to his law. You had that prior to it being on Mount Sinai. That was in a moment of time. And when you had the manifestation of his law and him unto a people. But he has always been, and since there have been people, there has been a standard. Let's go to Romans 1. Romans 1, and that's what Romans 1 is speaking unto. And that's why people are going to be destroyed, because we understand that he manifested himself unto one people, as it is written, you only have I known of all the nations of the earth. He's speaking unto Israel. It says, therefore I will punish you for all your iniquity. What advantage does have the Jew? What profit is there of circumcision? Much chiefly in every way, for unto them were committed the oracles of God. This is true. There has never been an instance like this in the course of humanity where he manifested himself directly unto a nation, came down on a mountain. That has not happened, but it is also true that you can know him. And if you think it is impossible for you to know him if you're of another nation or of some other culture, how is it that Abraham came to know him? We'll get to him in a second. But it said Romans 1 and verse 18, for the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. So what truth, rather, do they hold in unrighteousness? It says in verse 19, because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has showed it unto them. What has he shown this man? This is before Israel. What has he shown this man? It said, for the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made. What was made? In the Bereshith, or in the beginning. Elohim, it said bara Elohim. What does that mean? He created. What did he create? The heavens and the earth. See, that alone lets you know your position in relation to the Creator. You are part of his creation. He is greater than you and I. We are to be in subjection unto him. He said again, for the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. We even know who Elohim is. What did it say in John 1? We know that it says in the Bereshith, in the beginning, God created heaven and the earth. But we read in John 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. The Father created all things through the Son. This is also why he says in one place in Genesis, let us make man in our image after our likeness. And he gave them dominion. Who is the us? That's the Father and the Son. Elohim is plural intensive. But so now even this has been manifested unto man. And what has man done with this information? Has he said, you know what, I'm going to serve my creator? No. He said, because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds, and four-footed beasts, and creeping things. What man has done, he is engaged in idolatry. As Jeremiah tells us, the stock of the tree is vanity. Man has created, he has personified various attributes in nature. So in the creation, these principles and these attributes that you see that are universal, this is why everybody on the planet that deals in paganism has the same deities by different names, because they are personifying principles that are universal. So what happened is he made all of these idols. And again, let's get to the heart of the matter. Why would he do such a thing? Why make idols? Why worship falsely? Why deny the true and living God? He does so because, again, he does not want to bring his body into subjection. So it says, therefore, now notice this is what the Apostle Paul says in verse 24 of Romans 1. Wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness, he says, through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves. See, again, it's about carnality. This is the root of man's disobedience. He wants to fulfill the desires of his heart. Whereas Torah, whereas mitzvah or the commandments, this puts shackles on you, so to speak. It is regulation of your behavior. But so you want to do away with the one who gave you the regulation. And you actually, as once, you can hear the comment saying you want your cake and eat it too. You want to be in subjection so you can kind of get a reward, but you don't want to be in subjection in the way that the Most High declare, so therefore you will make up your own deity, even fashion him out of the creation, overlay him with gold and silver, deck him, and then you will give this God that you created out of the vain imagination of your mind regulations that you are willing to adhere to. This is nonsense. But this is what man has done. So now when you do away with him and he gives you over to your flesh, any and everything can take place. This is why homosexuality today is the norm. This is why pedophilia is on the horizon. This is why children out of wedlock is the norm. This is why idolatry is the norm. This is why all these things, from sexual debauchery to all kinds of violence, is the norm, because you have denied him and therefore done away with his law. He says, and likewise, I'm not just talking, verse 27, and likewise also the men. Well, let's pick it up at verse 26. And for this cause, God gave them up unto vile affections. That's why you see the degeneracy that you see. That's why you see it in this country at this very hour. And not only that, not only do you see it, understand that the consequences for such behavior is also on the horizon. But what do your watchmen tell you? Peace, peace, when there shall be no peace. So he said, for this cause God gave them up unto vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise, also the men leaving the natural use of the woman, burning their lust one toward another, men with men working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error, which was meet. See, this is what you get for your rebellion, for your obstinance. He says in verse 28, and even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affliction, implacable, unmerciful, who knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. Let's go to Genesis, the 6th chapter. See, there's always been a standard. Let's go to what Moshe recorded took place just prior to the flood. See, there's always been a standard of morality. If there was not a standard of morality, there would be no problem with Cain killing his brother Abel. If there was no standard, you could consume or you can commune with Satan, which was figuratively shown you through the eating of the fruit. They ate the fruit of lies. They communed with Satan. They broke the commandment. There would be no banishment. There would be no work as a curse. There would be no pain in childbearing. There would be no woman to be ruled over by the man in such a way. There would be no death. But now let's pick it up in Genesis, the 6th chapter. And there would be no punishment for Satan. As he said, he'll eat dust all the days of his life. He would not be relegated to a position to where, as Peter said, he walks to and from the earth, walking up and down and seeking whom he may devour. That's the dust. Human beings, the one man brought from the dust. And he has that on him, and he is under the chains of darkness until the time of judgment for what he has done. He started his rebellion in heaven, but nevertheless, we're in Genesis, the 6th chapter. So now I want us to read this, because if there's no law, this makes no sense. This is Genesis 6 and verse 5. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. So now, if there is wickedness, there must be a standard of what wicked is. See, if they're gonna pull you over for give you a ticket, speeding, there must be a standard of what's too fast, right? You break the law when you go over this speed limit. You can't, or if they're gonna pull you over and giving you a ticket for running a stop sign, guess what? The stop sign must exist, and the ordinance that goes along with it, telling you that you must come to a complete stop at the stop sign, must exist. But if there's no stop sign, if it's the Autobahn and you can just go as fast as you want, there is no ticket, there's no regulation. But that is not the case. This is so he says that their thoughts were evil continually, and it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And notice what he said. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I've created from the face of the earth, both man and beast and creeping thing and the fowls of the air, for repented me that I have made them. How is it that he's going to destroy all things if there's nothing that they're supposed to be doing? If there's no standard of righteousness and unrighteousness? No, there was always a standard of righteousness and unrighteousness that was given to man when he made man. Again, thou shalt not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Man knew what he was supposed to do. And even in our conscience, we know deep down buried within us, if we can if we can look past our flesh for just a second, our conscience tells us a lot of things that we're supposed to do. We know in our conscience that murder is wrong. We know in our conscience that adultery is wrong. We know in our conscience that stealing is wrong. We know in our conscience that there's certain things that you're simply not supposed to do, like lying on somebody. We know that that is wrong. But he says, now notice what it says here, verse 8, but Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. So how did he find this grace? How did he find this favor of not to be destroyed along with everybody else? Verse 9, these are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with God. Just like it said Enoch walked with God and was not, for God took him, that he should not see death. See, it says Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with God. He was righteous. Righteous according to what? There has to be a standard of morality. He was righteous. And the Bible tells us that he was also a preacher of righteousness. So how are you going to preach righteousness if righteousness does not exist? And what is the standard of righteousness? It is Torah. It is his law. It is his commandment. That is the standard of righteousness, as it tells you, and I touched upon this in the previous lesson, all unrighteousness is what? Sin. This is not rocket science. So somebody's telling you that you don't have to keep the law. You need to consider that the law has always been. You need to consider that the one who came to save you because you sinned in the first place told you to walk before me and be thou perfect. And he walked a sinless life. And he is our example. You should consider what Paul has said. We do away with the law? Are we to do away with the law? Because of grace, because of faith? He says, God forbid. One more place. Let's go to Job, because Job is considered one of the oldest books in the Bible. And I want us to pay attention here to what it says here. This is extremely old, the book of Job. I don't think people don't really talk about that, but Job is extremely old. I want us to pay attention. There's simply, we're not going to read all this, just what was said about Job. This is Job 1:1. Now, this is before Israel. Okay? So it says, as a nation, it says Job 1:1. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God and eschewed evil. So he hated evil. So if he was perfect, as the standard goes, while before me be thou perfect, perfect according to what? Notice what the Lord said about him. This is verse 8. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil. See, there must have been a standard of morality, and we'll end it there. With that, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you that we're at the Household of Faith, meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue in Gary, Indiana at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. We also live stream right here on the Israel Teach YouTube channel. We also meet every Sabbath in Stafford, Virginia. Our Stafford, Virginia congregation meets at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at the Red Roof Inn, 153 Garrisonville Road. Again, every Sabbath at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And with that, I want to say peace to everybody that's listening. And it is always my prayer that you will edify.